Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Fluently Forward. Today, we are covering one of my new favorite artists, maybe favorite artist of all of 2025, and that is Audrey Hobert. We're going to be doing a deep dive on her, and then we're going to do a little bit of the Fluently Fixing segment at the end, which I feel like I want to change the name of. It's not that anyone needs fixing, but it's just that I have so many ideas for musical artists based off of their vibe and their aesthetic and what they're all about. And I have cool ideas that I think are cool for merch or next eras or music videos or something that they could do. So let's get into Audrey Hobart. I wanted to do this episode because we have done a few episodes on famous singers and the engine behind them, which is what I'm calling it. So just a couple days ago on Patreon, we did an episode all about Lexi Smith. And you might know her as Addison Rae's best friend, but when you really look into Lexi Smith, she's this dancer and creative movement consultant, and she does a lot of Addison Rae's music videos and choreography, and her style looks almost exactly like Addison Rae's. And the more you look into it, it's like, wait a minute, is Addison Rae basically cosplaying her best friend, Lexi Smith? It was this really fun episode that we did, and I've thought that before with other artists. Like, for example, also over on Patreon, we did a deep dive on Julia Michaels, and she's been a ghostwriter in Hollywood for a really long time. She is the engine that has powered about 80% of Selena Gomez's career and maybe like 40% of Sabrina Carpenter's. And I find all of these ghostwriters and people behind the scenes really interesting because the example that I always talk about is when Selena Gomez put out the song Call Me When You Break Up. So many people were going, oh my God, who is it about? Does she want Taylor and Travis to break up? Does she want Justin and Haley to break up? Who's the song about? And it's like, well, the song is about somebody in Julia Michaels' life from 5 years ago because she wrote the song. And so often with a lot of pop singers, especially, they put a song out into the universe. You listen to the lyrics and you come away thinking that the singer feels a certain way, thinks a certain way, and really it's their ghostwriter. And I kind of fell into this trap myself because we did a Gracie Abrams deep dive episode a couple of months ago. And one of the things that I said about Gracie Abrams is that her songs kind of remind me of the Bare Naked Ladies, Chicka to China to Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick and your brain starts something. Anyway, they were this band I listened to growing up. Like any fellow millennials will probably know the Bare Naked Ladies, and they cram so many lyrics into their songs, and it's so fast. And there are a few of Gracie Abrams' songs that I loved, and I was like, wow, she's such a intellectualizing ruminator who crams so many lyrics in. I'm thinking of I Love You, I'm Sorry, That's So True, Risk. Guess who wrote those songs? The topic of today's episode, Audrey Hobart. And she wrote them with Gracie Abrams. They do a lot of writing together. But similar to a little bit of Julia Michaels and a little bit of Lexi Smith, Audrey Hobart has similarities to these people. So she got her start by being kind of like Gracie Abrams' best friend. They worked on music together. And then she recently put out her first album, Who's the Clown? It is unbelievable. I think she's such a shining star, and we're just going to talk about her today. Audrey Hobart. How can you tell if you're going to be a fan of Audrey Hobart? If you liked the TV show Pen 15, you're going to like Audrey. If you like my podcast, you're going to like Audrey. If you listen to Michelle Branch growing up as a kid, you're going to like Audrey Hobart. If you ruminate, if you are the type of person that when you were a kid and you would write in your diary, you would go, Hi, diary. I'm so sorry I haven't written in you for a really long time. Before we get into what's going on in my life, how are you? I thought it would be polite to ask. Anyway, here's what happened to me at school. If you did that in your, like, you're going to like Audrey Hobart. I'm just obsessed with her. Let's dive in and learn a little bit about who she is. So she's a 26-year-old singer, songwriter, and she, like I said, got her start co-writing several songs with Gracie Abrams. Then she released her debut single, which you've absolutely heard. It's called Sue Me. Sue Me, I Wanna Be Wanted. It's so infectious. It really gets into your head. And then, of course, she put out Who's the Clown on August 15th, 2025. And it is such a good album. Now, in a surprise to nobody, like so many famous people now, she's definitely got some Nepo baby-ish qualities about her. She is the sister of fellow musician Malcolm Todd, which is kind of like, oh yeah, she's a Nepo baby, but sorry to Malcolm Todd, I've never heard of him before, so I don't really know if you can super assign that label to her. But her dad was a writer and a producer for Scrubs and The Middle, which I always think the coolest people in Hollywood are probably the writers, the screenwriters, the script writers. Like, I always think I love the TV show 30 Rock, but what I'm really in love with is probably the people who I don't even know who wrote the show, the people who wrote Veep, all of that stuff. And it's interesting that her dad wrote for these comedy shows. I've seen Scrubs and I haven't seen the TV show The Middle, but I do know of it because probably, I'm not even joking, like 7,000 people over the years on TikTok have told me that I look like a character from The Middle. Her name is Sue Heck. I have Google imaged her, of course, after so many people have told me this, and I would say it's not a compliment. It's something that I call a doppelganger drive-by, and that's when somebody goes, "Oh my God, you look like insert name of person here." So then you head on over to Google Images and you look at them, and it feels like you've been shot. So that's what I call a doppelganger drive-by. I just always think, real quick, I'm gonna get off of this rant. If you are going to tell anyone that they look similar to someone in a TV show, a movie, a singer, an artist, that person, like people need to be jacking off to that person. Otherwise, it's an insult. That person needs to be modeling. If they're in a TV show, they can't be the butt of the joke. They have to be someone that people are lusting over and after. And if somebody like, oh my God, you look so much like that like loser kid with braces and blah, just zip it. They don't need they already know, that they have like a recessed chin maybe. And maybe they breathe out of their mouth when they sleep at night. You don't need to tell them. I just think more people need to know that with the doppelganger comparisons, unless it's like Adriana Lima. Anyway, we're going to move on. Back to Audrey Hobert. Her dad being a writer for Scrubs and The Middle, I think makes so much sense to me because, like I said, TV show, especially comedy show writers, are always so A1 to me. And I think it just gets that energy of communication open in the family. I think she has 3 siblings. She grew up with her 2 parents. She would talk a lot in different interviews about how she would put on different movies with her siblings and her cousins, or they would put on plays, or they would direct, I don't know, like YouTube videos. That type of creative energy in a house growing up, I feel like is so great. And I also feel like it's really sweet when your parents encourage you to do something creatively and you're kind of following in their footsteps. Like, I'm sure her parents couldn't be more proud of her. And you'll notice too in a lot of these interviews as we talk more about Audrey Hobert, she really thinks of herself as a writer first. I don't think she thinks of herself as a pop star. I don't think she thinks of herself as a sex symbol, but I think she thinks of herself as a writer. I would almost wonder if she read like Calvin and Hobbes comic books growing up because she has that kind of combination in her writing where it's something honest that she's saying. And there was this incredible book that back when I was at the Second City, taking classes there, we had like all of these books we had to read. And there was this one famous comedy book called Truth and Comedy by, I think, Del Close. And the main through line of that book was that things that are really honest, like so vulnerable and raw and honest, they're going to be funny. And something that's really funny is funny because it's so bare your heart open, honest. And I feel like Audrey Hobert ties everything that she says really well together in that sense. It's not like she's trying to be funny. She's being honest, and then it is funny. Do you know what I mean? Everything that she writes about, I think, is just so pure of heart and pure of intention that there's no way to take it in a bad light. I think especially nowadays, on the internet, online, so many times a sentence will be said. There's that famous forever tweet where they were saying that Twitter or the internet nowadays, you could say something like, oh, I like pancakes. And someone will go, oh, so you fucking hate waffles? What did waffles ever do to you? What do you have against them? There's so much that can be misinterpreted. And I feel like you don't really see people doing that with Audrey Hobert and her music because it's just so authentic that there's no other way to read into it. So I think it's really cool that she has that writing background from her family, and she probably had a lot of those traits growing up in her childhood. So she grew up in LA and dance was her main passion, which is something that, no shade, but like I would not expect. Addison Rae, we knew that she grew up as a dancer. Hailey Bieber, I think, has like a ballet background. I did not think that Audrey Hobert had like a dancing background. I thought her whole shtick was, when Taylor Swift is dancing in the You Belong With Me music video in her bedroom, that's kind of how I see Audrey Hobert dancing. But she grew up as like a certified dancer. It was her number one passion. She then became really into musical theater in high school. She says, quote, I was in collegiate a cappella. To be honest, I would say that there were 2 bad a cappella groups and I was in one of those. She says, I love to sing. I just never thought I liked writing music. I used to tell people in high school that I hated poetry, but I think what I meant by that was flowery language. Just say what you want to say. You don't have to fluff it up. 100% agree. 2000% agree. I hate purple prose. I feel like it's like one of the biggest downfalls when people say that we're now in this time of anti intellectualism. I'm like, I think that's because of purple prose. So many times people just want to like stroke their own academic dick by making sentences more complicated and convoluted than they have to be. And it frustrates me so much. I've said this before. I don't know why it stuck out to me so much, but Alyssa Violet, this is such a niche YouTuber reference, when she was making a YouTube video about dating Jake Paul and how horrible it was and everything that happened. It's this long 30-minute video that she put out on YouTube. And the number one line she said in that video that stuck out the most to me was she's explaining all of these things that happened and how he abused her. And then at one point towards the end of the video, she just goes, I'm hurt still. I'm hurt still. It's only 3 words. There was so much packed into that sentence. It's being vulnerable. She's talking about how she's hurt, and she's talking about how she's hurt still. She was dating a new guy. She's living in a new place. I'm hurt still. I don't know why, but something about that I'm hurt still. To me, I'm like, that could have been the title of the video. I feel like that summarized all of her thoughts so well. And it wasn't long and it wasn't flowery and it wasn't saying he gaslighted me and he was such a narcissist. It's just, I'm hurt still. And I love those simple sentences that I think is also great for music and lyrics because then everyone can interpret it in their own way. So, anyway, back to Audrey Hobert. She then went to NYU as a freshman at New York University. She shifted gears slightly, following in the footsteps of her father as a screenwriting major. She said, quote, I loved it so much. I had a feeling in high school that what I wanted to do was kick it with the writers. Writers are the coolest people on earth to me. And it's just so fascinating that she didn't see herself as a writer for a really long time. She saw herself as a dancer. She saw herself in musical theater. She said that she was really into Disney Channel when she was a kid, which I feel like is so relatable. She said, quote, all of that Hannah Montana music was being played at my dance studio, and I was just obsessed. I used to stand on the couch in my parents' den and stare at the ceiling and pray to God that someone would come and discover me and put me on the Disney Channel. Real AF. Then she graduated from New York University. She worked at a restaurant, I believe, for about 8 months. And then she got a job as a writer's production assistant at Warner Brothers. And then she got another writing job. It was on some Nickelodeon TV show. And then she started to get into songwriting. And this is where her friendship with Gracie Abrams starts to come together. So she met Gracie Abrams at their 5th grade graduation. In an interview, she said that Gracie was 10 and she was 11 when they first met, and they just became fast friends ever since. And at one point, I don't know if it was around COVID times, I think from what I remember from all these interviews, it was, but they were living together. She said it was super fun, one of the most fun times in her life. And they started writing a song together, and it just kind of happened naturally and organically. Gracie obviously had experience writing songs. Audrey hadn't done it before, but she really speaks so well about Gracie. I really like Gracie Abrams. And she basically says that Gracie Abrams really respected her. And I think that's so, with a lot of your friends, like you don't really know what their jobs are or what they do. I keep saying with my friend group, we need to have a PowerPoint night where each person explains like their job and their skills, because why is it that I know like my friend's childhood trauma and then what their boobs like and then their favorite way to eat pasta, but like I don't know what they do for work. But doing something creative and kind of business focused with a friend, I think is a really vulnerable thing to do. And it just seems like Gracie was really welcoming and completely open-minded, and they started songwriting together. She says, quote, we just started writing a song together at the same time and we finished it that night. So then Audrey went on to co-write several songs with Gracie Abrams, and she also directed 3 music videos for her most recent album. She puts together these really fun music videos for all of her songs, and she also directs all of them herself, which I feel like makes sense. I feel like Audrey Hobart has such a clear vision with her music. She writes all of her songs. She directs all of the music videos, and I feel like that's why the Audrey Hobart machine or brand or whatever it is feels so cohesive. So what she says about this experience writing with Gracie, she says, quote, I was so set on fire by the whole experience and also enthralled because it was completely new and I was doing it with Gracie,
who you just can't really ask for more when you equally love and respect and know this person all at the same level. We wrote a lot of songs for her last album, and then it was finished, and we weren't writing songs for her album anymore. And I was like, I don't feel like I can just stop doing this. There's also a little bit of lore between the two of them for the song That's So True that Gracie and Audrey wrote together. They've referenced in different interviews that apparently, like when they first started writing that song, it's a really angry, this was their quote. It's such an angsty, sarcastic song. Audrey and I were drunk on the roof, writing it in tears, laughing. The initial lyrics were way gnarlier. And they've kind of changed the story over the years from these interviews that I was picking up on. At first, they were like, we were drunk writing the song and it was so X rated and crazy. And then in other interviews, they were like, we were slightly tipsy and the lyrics were a little bit intense, but it wasn't anything crazy. It's almost giving me the same lore as when Taylor Swift said that she had the all too well 10-minute version for years, and people were like, "That 10-minute version, what is it? We have to know what it is." And obviously, Gracie and Audrey are huge Taylor Swift fans, and it just reminds me of a similar lore where I wonder if one day we're gonna get "That's So True," parentheses, "drunk on the roof" explicit version, because I really wanna know what it was, especially since we know that the song is about Dylan O'Brien now. I really wanna know what they were saying. Ooh. So anyway, Audrey Hobert had great success writing these songs with Gracie Abrams, so then she signed a publishing deal with Universal Music Group, and her job was a songwriter to work with musicians and producers on creating hits. She's a hit maker. She said, quote, "It's a crazy job. You just go and you meet people for the first time, and then you sort of gab and you're like, okay, let's write a song about that." And then the experience made it clear Audrey wanted to do this for herself. She said, quote, "And then I just didn't stop." A lot of what she says and how she talks about both her writing process, how she likes to connect with people, even her very first song on the album, "I Like to Touch People," but she's talking about touching their mind, touching their soul. And also the way that she talks about pop music coming to her so naturally. I know a lot of people wouldn't compare these two celebrities, but I see a lot of similarities in her and Benny Blanco. And I know that that sounds nuts because like the music that they make is so different, but when they talk about their writing process, when they talk about how pop music just kind of flows through their blood and it's the only thing that they can do, and how they like to have therapy sessions with people and just write about what's happening, all I can say is that, like, who knows? Maybe one day they'll do something together. I just see a lot of similarities between the two, which I know sounds nuts. So then, when Audrey was working at Universal Music Group, she met a producer named Ricky Gourmet, which, oh my God, it just sounds like if Bobby Flay did porn or something. So anyway, Ricky Gourmet, he's an artist and producer, and he had worked on Phineas's solo album, and they started working together. And immediately from meeting him, she was like, "This is the person I want to make music with." She said, quote, "Every time I had a session with him, I felt like this is by far the most interesting person I've met doing this. I found that when I would work with him, I wasn't bored on the couch, on my phone, or on Instagram. I was engaged because he was really funny and really smart and seemed to have the same ethos about this, which was let's have fun instead of let's make a hit." And this is now where we get into a little bit of different interviews that give me a tiny bit of Benny Blanco energy. So Audrey talks about how she is a lover of pop music. She's a self-proclaimed scholar of pop music. She says that Taylor Swift's Blank Space is the perfect pop song. And she talks a little bit too about how she wants her lyrics to show up in pop music. Her song will have something known as the Audrey Hobert touch: straightforward, arresting lyrics, which is a throwback to her anti-poetry days, and lyrics that don't take themselves too seriously. She says, quote, "My favorite line in the song is when he's all in his Amazon basics, because my ex always wore Amazon basics. My goals are to make them laugh and tell the truth." Hello, hello. Is that not just what I said? Truth and Comedy by Del Close. She continues, "I've studied pop music my entire life, and the craft was the most important part to me. There is a craftsmanship and somewhat of a formula to an amazing pop song, and I didn't have to study it to know it. I think it's just in my soul." And I would say this is the only quote of Audrey Hobart that it's not that I have a problem with it, but I think a little bit of her youth is showing just because she has talent coming out of her pores. What she does is so incredible. She's an authentic songwriter. She does have that gift for pop music that so many people struggle with. But one of the things that I think I really appreciate about quotes on pop music when people speak about it, like, I don't know, Benny Blanco, for example, is when they talk about how pop is one of the hardest genres to succeed in. And I think I really appreciate having like the respect thrown on the genre of pop because so many people
oh, country is where the songwriting is, and all of the witty lyrics are going to be in rap and hip hop, and jazz is something that you need to work at it for years to really master the craft. And pop, probably because primarily women listen to it, it's seen as this like stupid, fluffy bubblegum shit that anyone could do. So I really like when people throw respect on the pop name and talk about just how hard it is to do pop and how it's the hardest genre to succeed in. And yes, Audrey Hobert has a natural talent, and perhaps it even surprised her. But in some of these interviews I was reading with her, I don't know how to say it. Okay, this is just gonna be a little bit controversial, but it almost gave me some of the energy, and maybe this is just me getting triggered from high school, but you know when there was a kid in high school and you would study so hard for a test and you would get, like, a C plus on it? Okay, that was me in all math and sciences, and then the kid next to you would be like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't even study and I got an A." That would always rub me the wrong way. And I don't know how I would, like, rephrase things, but I noticed in a lot of her interviews, like, this her saying, like, "I didn't even have to study it to know it, like, it just came to me." Like, she's not saying anything bad here. Let me think on what I'm trying to say. I think what I'm trying to say is that normally when somebody is succeeding in something new and they haven't done it before, normally when I do deep dives on people and they started off their career on a high note, what I see a lot of is, oh my God, I learned XYZ from someone, and this other person taught me something else. And if it wasn't for person number three, I wouldn't have known how to blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting that I don't see a lot of that from Audrey. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. She does all of this on her own. I don't know, maybe with like a Nepo baby background and Gracie Abrams as her best friend, she really wants to, with her debut album, cement herself as like, this comes naturally to me. I did it all on my own. It's this natural gift that flows within me. And I was just able to do it. Because yes, she has unbelievable talent, but I also find it interesting because her sibling is a musician. Her father is in Hollywood. Her best friend is Gracie Abrams. So I think her succeeding in pop, of course, it's because she has natural talent coming out of all of her pores. But there's also a lot of advantageous things that are happening in the background. And I think this combination of things might have led to that idea of, I don't need to study pop music because I just know it naturally. And it's like, well, yeah, that's true. But for a lot of pop artists, they have to work to learn the industry, to learn connections, to figure out a producer to work with. So it might seem a little bit easier to Audrey Hobart and like, oh my God, this thing just fell into my lap and I happen to be so good at it, you know? And it's like, yes, but there are things in the background that have been working to make it feel so seamless and easy for you. And I think that takes away from some artists where a lot of these deep dives are like Chappell Roan, like all of these people worked their ass off for 10 years before they were able to get their first album out. And I think now it's starting to come together for me. In their interviews, they'll be like, oh, it worked so hard. I did this. I was grinding, blah, blah, blah. And those are the interviews where pop stars are saying, I learned so much from people. I did a year doing this. I did a year doing that. So I think when Audrey says in these interviews, oh my God, like it just came to me. I wrote all these songs and then I put it out. Yes, you have natural talent. Yes, she's incredible, but in a way that a lot of Nepo babies don't want to look into the mirror and realize, it might seem like you didn't have to study pop music because there were a lot of things in your background that were helping you out and making it feel so seamless. So, anyway, obviously, I still love her. I still love her down. This was just something that I noticed in different interviews. So, anyway, back to our timeline of her. Audrey Hobart, she's working with Ricky Gourmet, and the first song that they work on together, absolute banger, Sue Me. Sue Me, I wanna be wanted. She said it was the fifth song I ever wrote alone, and it was one of the first that I made with my producer, Ricky Gourmet. She says, I was with Ricky the week after I had slept with my ex, who I knew still had feelings for me, and I felt pretty bad about it, although it was a nice evening with him, but deep in my heart, I knew that I didn't feel the same way. Then she ended up writing Bowling Alley. Love Bowling Alley. I mean, I could just say this about every song on the album. And this is a fake story, by the way, which I wondered if some of these stories are real or made up on these songs. And Bowling Alley is kind of a fake story about seeing a party at a bowling alley and you were invited, but you get this nagging feeling that nobody wants you there. She said, quote, Bowling Alley is about thinking that nobody wants you to go to their party, even though you were cordially invited. It's a self-involved feeling. And it's also about people who you've known for years only acknowledging you when you do something exciting artistically and in the public eye. I've experienced both things and I thought, heck, put it to music, girl. Bowling Alley is one of my favorite songs I've ever written. If Audrey Hobert were a song, it would probably be this one. And I love Bowling Alley. The music video for it is so fun too. I think she said that she flew in her sisters and cousins for it, and they all acted it out. And it was kind of reminiscent of those movies or scripts or plays that they would put together when they were kids in the summer. All right, let's move on to her blind items and gossip and dating. There were so many blind items. No, I'm just kidding. There's actually no blind items about her. So this deep dive is going to be a little less thick than some of the other ones that we've done. I tried to dig into her dating past. There was one hint of an old relationship in an interview. She talks about when she was 18 years old and she went to NYU, but she felt like an adult. She said that her freshman year was hard and she was nursing a high school breakup with a guy who she had stayed in love with for almost the entirety of that first year. Quote, I'd be walking around like, holy shit, I'm in New York City. I'm studying the thing I've always wanted to be studying, but none of it felt good enough because he wasn't there to witness it or available for me to tell about it. And I think that's so real too. I don't know if this is a lyric in a song or if this was from one of her Genius interviews, but she had a sentence about when you have a crush on someone and how everything in your life changes because if you put on an outfit, it's like, I hope my crush sees this outfit because I look good in this outfit. If you're at home reading a book, you're like, man, I really wish my crush was here to see how cute I am reading this book. How cute of me, how academic of me. And it's just so real, everything that she says. If put your hand up if you also suffer from the imaginary audience phenomenon. It's just so like every single thing that she writes about, it's like a Sex in the City voiceover from Carrie or her ponderings and her newspaper column or all of those things that we think, but we don't want to say out loud. And she just sings it out loud. It's incredible. So let's move on to Audrey Hobert's aesthetic and the fluently fixing segment that I want to do for her. I really don't want to change her aesthetic in the way that I've suggested changes for Camila Cabello and Benson Boone in these past fluently fixing episodes. I adore Audrey Hobert's aesthetic. I think that it's amazing. Her capri length leggings paired with loafers and like around the house singing into a hairbrush, music videos that are shot around her home featuring real people from her life. There was one music video for maybe Wet Hair, I think, and it's her singing in all of these different shots of her apartment or her home. And she has this light blue hydro flask water bottle that just kind of appears in every shot because it's just her in her house and this is what she owns. I love the authenticity of it. It's just real as fuck. And I want her to keep that authenticity and the way that it feels like her thoughts and her diary pages just come out on paper. And even things about her that would seem unrelatable, she's able to make it seem relatable. So, one of the things that she sings about is grappling with her appearance, like her physical appearance. She has a few lyrics. My face, it's Kismet, babe. Why else would you want me? I think I've got a fucked up face. I think that's from the song Phoebe. And I mean, first of all, we all have those thoughts. How many times, especially throughout your menstrual cycle, have you looked at the mirror and been like, one day, oh my God, should I model? And then the next week, you're like, should I kill myself? Like, it literally just oscillates between those 2 points. And she grew up in LA. I cannot even imagine how dysmorphic I would be if I grew up in LA around all of these different people. Part of me does worry sometimes. Does she have dysmorphia? Because she sings about her face and it's like, you've got a great face. Does she look like Madison Beer? No, but I can't even get my Sims to look like Madison Beer. Like nobody can look like I'm surprised she can even pull it together. She looks like a perfection. And Audrey Hobart has a different look than like the Instagram face, but she has this very beautiful, willowy, long appearance. She's got this gorgeous strawberry red hair. I like her lips. I like her profile. I like her posture. I think that every single part of Audrey Hobart, how she looks and how she presents herself, it comes together in a way that makes complete sense. But my theory is I think that if I or anyone lived in her shoes where you grow up in LA and you're kind of Nepo baby adjacent. Your best friend happens to be Gracie Abrams. You're getting invited to Grammys after parties and you're being around all of these people who do the LA yes to you or look past you or just want to know how you're famous. I would also probably think that I was hideous. But the way that she sings about it, because not all of us are Nepo babies who grew up in LA, but we all have social media nowadays. So we're seeing all of these gorgeous people. Like, I guarantee in the year right now, 2025, everyone feels worse about their appearance than probably any prior generation ever has. Even like the Y2K era. So when she sings about like my face is fucked up or should I do this? Should I be cuter? Even though we're not used to growing up in LA and feeling that specific genre of what she's feeling, we feel something similar and it feels so relatable. So all of this to say, like, I don't want her to change her look. I don't want her to change her hair. I don't want her to change her clothes. Everything that she's doing in that vertical, there's nothing to be fluently fixed because I think it's perfect. And she's so dialed in on what Audrey Hobart is. I have this Pinterest board that I love. It's called Early 2000s Mamacita. And I pin items on that board that are Lorelai Gilmore cooking pasta bolognese at home with mismatched bowls, a jean jacket with a really long scarf, doing a crossword puzzle next to a fireplace. Like all of these things remind me of Audrey Hobart, and it's kind of a combination of both underconsumption core and then also nostalgia core because I feel like we have a lot of pop stars lately who are tapping into nostalgia, but they're tapping into it in a different way that Audrey Hobart is. Tate McRae, it's like, oh my God, this is so Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears in the early days. Addison Rae is very Y2K. Zara Larson is performing, and it's like the Lisa Frank dolphin and all of that beautiful pink, shimmery, shiny sticker. But Audrey Hobart is tapping into nostalgia that's a different vertical. It's like Lorelai Gilmore, it's Friends, it's that amazing time period that kind of combines the 90s and the early 2000s where there was a lot of hope in the air and there was a lot of creativity and things were kind of low quality. Audrey Hobart to me is that camcorder that you have on your hand where the little video panel pops out on the side. It's almost like Audrey Hobart is so much substance and depth that there doesn't need to be as much shimmery shine on the surface because there's already so much there. I don't know how to say it. It's like Audrey Hobart is a magazine. She's like a crossword puzzle. She's a YouTube video from 2008, back when the YouTube interface was a little bit different. And I think that's what so much of us want right now, which is why I think she's perfect for the time. So much of us, there's ads everywhere on social media, which is why underconsumption core and making Christmas crafts out of an old Trader Joe's cardboard bag is appealing to so many people. It's our reverse away from having all of these ads overloaded on us while inflation is rising. We want underconsumption. And the way that now social media is in every corner of something, they have meta glasses where you can film people with your glasses and everything is done with AI. It has people wanting to go back to nostalgia and that day of Zanga, MySpace, AIM. So people are craving both underconsumption and a little hint of that nostalgia. And I feel like you put it together, and that's Audrey Hobart. It's exactly what the masses are kind of craving right now, even if they don't know that they want it. So here's what I would suggest for her and what I would love to see. Number one, she's got a Substack. She's a great writer, of course, really funny. I would love her Substack to be turned into a magazine subscription. And it wouldn't be monthly because I feel like that could kind of take some of her creative energy out of it if it had to be done by the end of the month. But just send out a magazine or a few pages in a booklet whenever you want. It would be like the Audrey Hobart Club or like the Audrey Hobart back page or yearbook page. It would kind of capture some of that nostalgia and it could have different doodles that she's done throughout a couple of months, crosswords, meanderings, different lyrics or musings that she's had on the world. I think something like this would be fun because so many artists are putting out vinyls and t-shirts with their face on it. And I want to be in club Audrey Hobart. Like I want to AIM with her. I want to read her diary. I think she should take advantage of that. Another idea that I have for Audrey Hobart is a fun way to get media attention. The next time she's going to a red carpet appearance, nothing as high stakes as the Grammys, but just, she's on a red carpet. Have it be a nice outfit she's wearing, a beautiful dress, but have there be a little white deodorant stain by the waist or by the knee. I just feel like it's so real. In one of her music videos, she's getting ready to go out and she puts the deodorant on in the bathroom as she's singing and then she goes to leave. And I just think if there's a little beautifully artistically placed white smear of deodorant powder, it would be in the headlines. It would cement her brand as this like authentic, relatable girl. She still looks amazing. It's not like it's right by the armpit. It would be in a beautifully crafted place by the waist. And it would put her in headlines like, oh my God, this star, her album's the big thing of the year, but there was a deodorant stain. Or another idea could be that she's wearing a beautiful dress, but the tag is sticking out of the back of it. Like these fun ways where she still looks amazing and presentable and she's there for something, but there's like a little quirky oddity going on. So then that way she can capture some media buzz. Number three, I would tell Audrey Hobart, treat your Instagram bio like it's an AIM status. And whenever you're in the mood to change it, just change it and update it with something going on in your life. I think this would be great because it kind of brings her back to the nostalgic AIM underconsumption core that I feel like she's really good at. And it would also get people going to her Instagram page and checking it out. Oh my God, I want to see what Audrey's thinking right now. Has she changed her bio? What's on her mind? What's she doing? I think it would bring back that internet freshness and really just show how she's using the internet in a different way than most other people are. I would also, number four, I would have her wear shoes with doodles on them. Do you remember being in middle school or high school and people would have Converse and you would draw on it with Sharpie? I think that should be her footwear. To me, that's very Audrey Hobart core. Converse with like doodles on it or different people signing it. Maybe she could go to a fun party with shoes and they're white when she goes in, but when she comes out of the party, they've been signed by different people at the party. I just feel like I don't know, Audrey Hobart gives me like having your yearbook signed energy for some reason, and I think that could be kind of a cool fashion statement or staple that she does. A merch idea for her that I have is, those sets of pens or pencils that you get and they have different sayings on them? Like, I don't know, sometimes it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or sometimes it'll be wish it was Friday, when's the weekend? All of these like phrases on pens and pencils. Because she's such a prolific writer and her lyrics are so meaningful, instead of having stupid merch that nobody wants, I think she should put out these packages of pens or pencils and have different lyrics or musings from her mind on the pen or pencil. I just think that would be great. I would love to buy it. And then lastly, when she does her second album and she's about to release it, I know that her and Gracie are fans of Taylor Swift, so they probably like that Easter egg appeal. When she releases her track list, I think the first release of it should be an Easter egg kind of hunt. And it would look like all of the notes on her iPhone Notes app, but only some of the notes are going to be actual tracks for the next album. And then some are just random notes on her iPhone. So it'll be like a screenshot of all of these different notes. And some of them will say, how to stop overthinking, best quinoa recipe, should I text him IDK, grocery list. And in between all of those things, you'll have some of them be track lists. And we have to guess which ones are going to show up on the album and which ones are just notes on her phone. So those are just some ideas I have for her. I'm just so excited about what she's doing. I think it's so perfect for this time. Like there could not be a better time to have an Audrey Hobart like character taking over in the music world. Her live performances are incredible. She's got a dynamite voice. And not that I would ever want to change her aesthetic because I like it so much right now, but if she gets bored and in a couple years does want to change her aesthetic, I think in looking up different photos of her, she looks amazing in like a short, delicate, lacy dress from Anthropologie, like white lace all over, sheer. And then she's wearing black sheer tights. I love that look on her, like kind of messy strawberry blonde hair, but paired with very delicate tights and a dress. Her stare into the camera is bold, but everything that she's wearing is very delicate and light. And I think it matches her beautiful, long, willowy frame. Of course, I love her current aesthetic right now, but I just think that that one could also be amazing for her in the future. So that is a little bit about Audrey Hobart. I just think she's so one to watch. I would say my three biggest ones to watch from 2025. You already know Addison Rae, duh. Tate McRae, I'm the only one defending her. She was my number one Spotify Wrapped. I know everyone thinks that my taste is trash, but what can I say? I think she's headed for big things. And Audrey Hobart. So if you haven't already, please go listen to Who's the Clown. I just think every single song on there is so amazing. Let me know what you think about Audrey. Let me know if you have any fluently fixing ideas. What merch would you want to see from her? What would you want to see on her next album, etc. And if you want to hear about somebody similar to Audrey Hobart in the way that she is to Gracie Abrams, go check out patreon.com/fluentlyforward, where we talk all about Lexi Smith, who I think is Addison Rae's Audrey Hobart, or Selena Gomez's Julia Michaels. As always, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and I will see you guys soon for another episode of Fluently Forward. Bye, guys.